background to the recording of the complete Layla track in the Layla Part 1 video. Part 2 is the piano-based section, often referred to as the Piano Coda, which forms the second half of the album version of the track. Although other claims have been made to the authorship of this section over the years, it was essentially created by Dominos drummer Jim Gordon and is the reason that he shared the writing credits for the Layla track with Eric Clapton. The Piano Coda is structured in a less straightforward way than Part 1. The absence of vocals means that it is difficult to pin down a verse and a chorus. However, it is essentially just two piano motifs and an A minor phrase that are combined in various ways to add interest. After the piano solo or interlude, it is possible to identify 10 sections of either 8 or 12 bars in length. These are built up from 4 separate segments, which are in turn built up from the two motifs and the A minor phrase. And guitar lines weave over the piano part to produce a unique but instantly recognisable piece of music. The piano motifs are Motif 1, lasting 4 bars. This is the most frequently used motif in the track. It's used 15 times. Motif 2, also lasting 4 bars. This is essentially the turnaround for Motif 1. It's used 8 times. Lastly, the A minor phrase. Lasting 8 bars, it is only used twice in the track. Although it may not sound like it, the tempo of this section is almost identical to the first section. It was recorded at 110 beats per minute and then speeded up in post-production, like the first part. The increase to 116 beats per minute is around 5%. If you try to play along to the original track, you'll find it is roughly a semitone sharp. Our version here is at 110 beats per minute and concert pitch, where A is 440 Hz. You can pause the video here to study the chord chart. The Piano Coda, as originally recorded, started by using the first motif in C major. While it could be that a shift down from the D minor chorus was intended to contribute to the sense of release from the tension of the guitar solo, a simpler explanation could be that writer Jim Gordon was not first and foremost a piano player, and C major, with no black notes, is the easiest scale for the casual piano player to use. For the second motif, built around a B-flat 7 chord, it moves to C mixolydian mode. The A minor phrase is essentially the relative minor of C major. However, it includes a chord outside of A minor, D major. When the album was originally released, it included track sheets showing who played what on each track. Here is the track sheet for the Layla Coda. There are 5 guitar tracks and a bass track. Eric plays 2 Leslie guitar tracks, 3 and 4, and the acoustic guitar track 6. One of the Leslie guitar tracks was erased on 1st of October during the overdubs. The track is very dense sounding in any case, and it was probably decided that the second Leslie guitar track was overkill. Eric reinforces the melody played by the piano in sections 5, 6, 7 and 8 before reverting to a backing track consisting of triads. Duane plays 2 slide guitar tracks, 5 and 9. Track 5, panned centre and lower in the mix, seems to be the original track, and track 9, panned right and more prominent, seems to be the later overdub. However, they were both recorded on the same day. Bobby Whitlock has said that producer Tom Dowd asked him to contribute a piano part on track 14 to beef up Jim Gordon's piano part. Although we are looking at the guitar parts for the track, it is essentially a piano piece that has been embellished with guitars. Jim Gordon and Bobby Whitlock used the Baldwin SD10 9-foot grand piano owned by Criteria Studios. One of these would set you back $100,000 today. We will be using an emulation by Native Instruments, the Grandeur. Eric and Duane used the same guitars used in section 1 of the track, Brownie for Eric Clapton and a 57 Gold Top for Duane. We will be using a Fender Strat with 50s pickups and a Gibson Historic 57 Gold Top. Duane and Eric used tweed Fender Champ amps like this one pictured, which is what we'll be using. Carl Radle used a precision bass with a jazz bass neck. We'll be using a Yamaha bass and a THR 10C amp. Bobby Whitlock used a Hammond B3 organ. We'll be using a Native Instruments emulation of a B3 triggered by a Fender Strat fitted with a Fishman TriplePlay MIDI converter. Musicians have always experimented with new sounds, and in the 60s guitarists discovered that playing their electric guitars through a Leslie speaker cabinet gave an interesting new sound. In the Layla Coda, Eric Clapton used a Leslie speaker for a couple of his guitar parts, which contributed to its distinctive flavour. The video was filmed using a Fender Super Champ X2, which incorporates a Leslie speaker emulation. For the complete track, we will be using the Amplitude 4 emulation of the Leslie speaker. Here is the opening phrase played using a Leslie speaker emulation. Reverse tape effects started in the 1960s, and the reverse cymbals effect is a good example. The Piano Coda makes use of a reverse crash cymbal several times. In modern DAW software, it is very easy to reverse a crash cymbal to achieve this effect. Eric Clapton is pictured holding a 1960s Gretsch Rancher acoustic guitar on the Layla album cover. We can speculate that this was used for the box guitar parts on the track. We will be using a vintage Gordon Giltrap signature 12-string to record the single line parts, and a Taylor 812C fitted with a Fishman Rare Earth pickup to record the triads. Eric essentially plays arpeggios based on the chord sequence of the track. The Leslie cabinet gives his guitar a pulsating quality. At various points there are embellishments to add interest. Here are the arpeggios for each piano motif. Here are the main licks that Eric uses to add interest. The acoustic guitar reinforces the melody in sections 5, 6, 7 and 8. In sections 9 and 10, it reverts to a backing track with a succession of triads. Duane's guitar parts are a combination of slide guitar and fingering. His part is mainly played around a pentatonic position 1 pattern at the 17th fret, so essentially A minor, with excursions beyond the end of the fingerboard as in the solo in part 1. We've only shown sections 1 to 4. You should be able to pick up the remainder of the slide part from the complete track. There is one quite fast descending run. The bird calls or chirps right at the end are achieved by using the corner of the bottle just in front of the bridge pickup. The bass line is straightforward, which is just as well given all the interwoven guitar lines. It doesn't vary significantly from matching section to matching section. Bobby Whitlock's Hammond B3 underpins the track all the way through, although it's low in the mix. We're playing it here using a Fender Stratocaster fitted with a Fishman TriplePlay MIDI converter. And when you put it all together, this is what our version of the entire track sounds like.